Hello, everybody, and welcome into the 74th edition of Texas Longhorns Live. I'm your host, Matthew Miller, joined as always every Monday, Gerald Goodrich. Please hit that like button, please subscribe down below, and let's jump into it. So, the Kentucky recap, and wow, what a game. If you missed it, I recommend just looking at the box score. Do not watch the game, do not hurt your eyes like that, do not subject yourself to that. My Wi-Fi did not act right after the game, so I didn't get my thoughts off on this. So, I'll start out and just say that was one of the most diabolical games I've ever seen from a Texas team win or lose. Like the only other games I put in that category, I put Kansas, Sark's first year in that category. I put Oklahoma State, Sark's, I believe that was his second year in that category with Quinn Ewers, where Quinn Ewers goes 18 of 49, and we're just ramming our head into the wall of, hey, let's go deep. While your quarterback hit his thumb in the pre game scenario. I forget what happened. He hit his thumb on something. And then also there was 30 or 40 mile per hour winds and you just decided to throw deep the whole game. Don't get me started on that one. And then that game plan, which was versus Kentucky, which, Oklahoma's game plan worked, and we did none of the things that worked in that game in this game. We just said, nope, that was just for that week. We're going to throw out everything and not do any of it versus Kentucky. So that made no sense to me. Arch Manning on the day, 12 of 27, 132 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I do give Arch Manning a lot of credit. The last 3 weeks, really, has played very clean football. Has it always looked good? No, but it's been clean. And honestly, if he had any turnovers in this game, we'd lose this football game. So I have to give him credit for that. On the bad side, missed too many open throws again. There were 4 throws that I counted that should have just been completed no matter what. Now, that still only puts you at 16 and 27. And those other, 11 attempts to me are more on Steve Sarkisian in the offensive line than they are on him. But if he hits those 4, we're probably talking about a 220-yard day because they're pretty big plays to be had. Jack Andrews probably runs for 30-plus yards and a touchdown. Ryan Wingo probably gets 20 to 25 yards. There's another play to DeAndre Moore over the middle of the field. I think he gets 15, 20 yards. So he did miss big chunk plays, and they were wide open. So you have to hit those plays. I completely agree with that. But this isn't a one-man band. What I mean by that is when you have this bad of a football game, this is on everyone, period. Yeah. It's on Kyle Flood. It's on the offensive line. It's on Steve Sarkisian. It's on Arch Manning. It's on the running backs. It's on the offensive line. The only ones I can't give any blame to are the wide receivers because I think they only had 1 drop on the day. I think it was Ryan Wingo that dropped the pass and still wasn't a great pass. It was over here when it should have been in front of him, but he still should catch the ball. Both hands were on the football. But overall, just a horrendous game all around for the Texas offense, Gerald.
Yeah, there's a lot, and I don't know what AJ Milwauee's job is at this point. I'm not normally the kind of guy that's like calling for coaches' jobs or like questioning that, but like when you think about the issues that plagued Quinn Ewers, and now you think about the issues that are plaguing Arch Manning, they're all related to mental reps and coaching. And Steve Sarkisian is presumably the quarterback coach in this scenario where AJ Milwauee is maybe doing some relationship management or doing some recruiting and all that. And that's all well and good. But like when your head coach is struggling and he doesn't have a legitimate backstop to help him take some of those things, Quinn Ewers admitted he was a head case. Arch Manning very clearly has a case of the yips. We are in a situation where they are like, I don't know what is happening or what's not happening behind the scenes, but ultimately, like, that is a coaching issue. That is a preparation issue. That is a mental management issue. And that's all coaching. Like, and they have to, because now we're 2 quarterbacks in, right? Quinn Ewers struggled with his footwork, struggled with his fundamentals, and was a perfectionist, went to a sports psychologist for it. And that's a great thing. Like, I'm not trying to knock people taking care of their mental health. I love that. But now you've got another quarterback who is an all-world kind of guy who is struggling to hit basic throws that we know he can hit. That is a mental thing. That is a processing thing. That's a pressing and squeezing thing. And that is coaching. I don't know what's happening in their coaching to turn these quarterbacks into basket cases, but like at some point we've got to say enough is enough, right? Like at some point you've got to say Texas has now had 2 of the best recruited, best touted quarterbacks to come out of high school in the last 20 years. And they haven't been able to get them mentally in a place where they're able to perform up to it. Now the Quinn Ewers of it all, there's obviously the injuries that happen, but he also talked about like his mental struggles and his mental issues with that. And so again, I just can't fathom what is happening in that quarterback room. Because like ultimately, like AJ Milwauee, you've got the title, you're making a decent paycheck for that. Like if your job is to manage recruiting, then move to personnel and have somebody else who can actually be a plus when it comes to getting these quarterbacks mentally ready for the game. Like, and I'm not, again, Sark's not going to fire his dude. They're friends. Kind of Milwie's been his right hand man for a minute, but like if Milwie is just there to manage the quarterback recruiting, you've got a whole personnel department that you could have, and there's guys out there that are going to be available, that are available or will be available soon, that I think could come in and actually legitimately help be a developer of quarterbacks, so Sark can actually do some other things and not have to figure out what's going on and do two people's jobs.
No, and I agree with that. I don't know what AJ Milwee does. It'd be interesting to be a fly on the wall for a day or two just to figure out what actually he's doing on a day-to-day basis. And if it is, like you said, just recruiting, guess what? NIL does a heavy lifting of that right now. Like, you don't really need anyone there for just purely recruiting because NIL handles a lot of that. So it's very interesting to me if that's the case. And I don't know what they're going to do. You know, the guy on the chopping block originally I thought was going to be Jeff Banks. That's not going to happen because the special teams has been fantastic. The tight end room has been pretty good, not great, but they've been open. Jack Andrews is wide open. You got to deliver him the football. You paid him a lot of money, so I think he's done pretty well. Overall, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the coaching staff. I don't know what's going to happen, but overall, this game was just complete garbage, guys. The game plan was garbage. I don't understand how Trey Wisner, coming off his best game of the season, he has 3 carries at halftime. You had 6 combined runs between the running backs at halftime. That is unacceptable. I don't understand it. I don't know what the point of it is. When a quarterback is struggling, short passes in the run game are his best friend. We did very little of both of those. Very little. And I just don't get it from Steve Sarkisian. I really don't. DeAndre Moore, I thought, had a decent game, not a great game. 3 receptions for 37 yards is fine. And defensively, really good. Like Anthony Hill, 9 tackles, 1 interception. Colin Simmons, 3 sacks. What is it? 5.5 sacks over the past 2 games for him. So he's turned it on. The defense is what won this game. I got people in this comment section on this channel telling me that the defense should have been blamed more. Listen, you want to put some blame on them, that's fine. Kentucky was 7 of 18 on 3rd down. That's not good enough. Completely agree. But they gave up 13 points. Kentucky had 4.6 yards per play. It's not on them. You held an offense to under 5 yards a play. Anytime you do that, I can't blame you. Texas, on the other hand, had 3.3 yards per play in this game. Guys, that is an abomination of an offense. To have 3.3 yards per play is horrendous. It's hard to understand, hard to see. And I don't understand how Sark can look us in the eye today and say, they brought me here because of that. I'm going to stay the offensive coordinator, and I'm not going to have anyone come in and call plays. It is very hard to do that in modern day football. You have a lot on your plate. You have to delegate a little bit more. And a lot of the best offensive minds in the sport are not calling their own plays right now. Lane Kiffin is not calling his own plays right now. Charlie Weiss Jr. is doing that. Kalen DeBoer not calling his own plays right now. Hell, didn't call his own plays when they made the national championship game. Ryan Grubb did that. I think the only guy on the tier of great offensive minds that is calling his own plays, and it has not worked, is Lincoln Riley. That is the only one. So that has to change, in my opinion. The time of possession, to me, is wild. When you have 20-37 on the Texas side to 39-23 time of possession on Kentucky side, it's hard to win that. We got very lucky. Again, that was the only team in the SEC, and there's probably out of the Power 4, there's maybe a handful of teams where you could win that football game. That's how bad of a team Kentucky is. We got completely lucky to win that game. I would love to know over since 2000. I don't have the data in front of me. I don't have enough time to run it. But I would bet from games that meet these statistics of a team reaches over 390 yards of offense, the other team doesn't get to a 180. We didn't get to 180 yards of offense. I bet there's maybe 10 teams since 2000 that have won that football game. if that. Like, we got extremely lucky to win this football game.
Yeah, apologies for my absence.
You're all good.
My son kicked the router, and so I had to go fix that. But yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know if you talked about this already, Matthew, but a 16.8 post game win expectancy in this one. Like, there is no planet in which Texas should have won this game. Like, there is absolutely no way, shape, or form that Texas should have won this game. And you know, you could say it's a culture win and all that, which is great, right? They found a way to win, but ultimately, like, you lost 2 yards on an overtime drive that you needed to simply just take 3 knees and kick a field goal. Right? Like, that to me is just, that is the level of ineptitude we're dealing with on the offensive side of the ball. And I don't know how much of my AJ Milwee rant made it in, but like, Sark said it today in his presser that like he's not going to give up play calling duties. And Shihan Jeharaja, who writes for CBS, posted a comparison that I think is apt. He posted 2 pictures, one of Jimbo Fisher and one of Ryan Day. Right, like Sark has a choice to make, because at some point, like, you're either Jimbo Fisher or you're Ryan Day when it comes to giving up play calling as a coach. And one of them beat Texas in the college football playoff a year ago and hoisted that trophy when he gave up play calling duties. And there is, again, I don't know who, I mean, Billy Napier's on the market. Billy Napier just put together an offense that beat the crap out of Texas a few weeks ago. He's also got a pedigree as a quarterback coach. Like, that's the kind of guy you want. Mike Norvell obviously isn't going to get bought out. They just announced that today, but like, Mike Norvell's another guy who's got a pedigree as a play caller and a quarterback coach. But ultimately, like, at some point, you've got to be able to like look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm the problem. One of the things that makes great coaches bad at the job sometimes is like, they're all convinced that they have the right answer and they know how to solve the problem, which is what makes a lot of great coaches great, right? It's what makes them be, it was what made Sark come in and be able to flip the roster so quickly and get Texas to a place where they're competitive in the SEC in their first year. But at this point, it's going to be like, can you check your pride a bit and say, maybe it's me. My dad told me when I was a kid, like, if you run into a jerk in the morning, they were a jerk. You run into jerks all day, you're a jerk. And like, Sark is starting to look like a jerk a little bit on this one. Like, there are enough people saying the same thing to him that like, you've got to be able to find a way to get past your own, whether it's insecurity, whether it's your own stubbornness, right? But like, clearly the offense isn't working. The offense had issues last year. There are still glaring things that haven't been fixed. And ultimately, like, those things have bitten Texas in the keister twice this year already and will likely cost them a shot at an SEC championship and a college football playoff.
No, 100%. And we might as well just jump right over to this. Why Sark needs to hire an offensive coordinator. I think we're both on the same page at this point. He has to do it. I went digging because I was curious about this. So I went to teamrankings.com, which basically they keep a category or different categories on statistics. It's yard per game, points per game, I think all the way back to like 2015. I just went back during Sark's tenure, obviously, and did. So I looked at yards per play, yards per rush, yards per pass, yards per game rushing, yards per game passing, points per game, red zone scoring percentage, third down percentage. And Steve Sarkisian, since he has been here, combined in every one of those statistics, has been top 10 once combined in every one of those statistics. It was yards per game in 2023. That is it. I'm sorry, but if you're this quote-unquote offensive genius, you can't be in the top 10 one time in those categories. That gives you, I think, 5 years, about 6 categories, 7 categories. We're talking 30 to 40 times between there, and you're in there one time. That's it. So that's unacceptable. And I think if I extended it to 15, I think you were in there 2 or 3 times. So this isn't anywhere close where it needs to be. And if you look at those rankings, guys, it is littered with Georgia, Ohio State. Teams that won the national championship were in there a lot, because guess what? Usually you're good at something. Ohio State did it through the air. Georgia did it through the ground, but they were really good at one thing. Texas is yet to be really good at one thing while Steve Sarkisian has been here. There's nothing that I can point to and say Steve Sarkisian has an identity at Texas on the offense side of the ball. We don't have an identity. We have never had an identity. You know what we've had? We've had super talented players. That's what we've had. 2023, guys, we're talking on the outside, Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, Jordan Whittington. Then you have Jatavian Sanders and Gunnar Helm backing him up. At the time, you had Jonathan Brooks, who was healthy, C.J. Baxter, and Jaden Blue. and you couldn't get to a national championship. I'm not saying win, get to a national championship game. If you were that offensive genius, you should have been able to dice up a bad Washington defense, because that's what they were. They were not a good Washington defense. We saw what Michigan did to them the week after, and we couldn't outduel, which was just Michael Penix and basically Rome Odunze, because the other guys, no offense, haven't turned out to be anything else in the NFL. It was those two guys that killed us all night long, and we couldn't outduel them when we had way more talent. The next year, you have Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, Gunnar Helm, and you have a bunch of other running backs that are good, plus Quinn Ewers and 4 offensive linemen that are in the NFL currently. And you could not. You scored 17 points in regulation versus Arizona State. Let me say that again. You scored 17 points in regulation versus Arizona State. This hasn't been a thing where it's been just beautiful and then this has been terrible this year. It's been really good, but it's never been great. And to me, you're going to have to be great at something, either running or passing the ball on offense, to win a national championship. Have never been great at either. And right now we're bad at both.
Yeah. And I want to pull in this comment from Rich in the conversation here, because you're absolutely right that like the offensive line is awful. The offensive line is terrible, but that speaks to why I think Steve Sarkisian is kind of derelict in his duties here. Because one, if you can't self-scout in the offseason and see that you offensive linemen have slow feet and we need to get somebody, slow feet don't eat has been an axiom for centuries effectively, right? Like if you can't self-scout, then you're doing too much, right? And with that, Steve Sarkisian called the game plan a week ago that covered up for the fact that the offensive line is bad. Because if you lined up, this weekend's game plan against Oklahoma, Texas loses by 35 points probably, because they could not do that against Oklahoma's defense. But Steve Sarkisian, again, schemed himself into a place where he got quick passes out there. He supplemented the lack of early run game with quick passes, getting guys in space. And then as the game progressed, the game plan then became, okay, now we're going to run the ball. Now we're going to run the ball. Now we're going to run the ball. Quintravian Wisner had 22 carries last week against Oklahoma. He had 12 against Kentucky.
And he had 3 at halftime. Three at halftime.
3 at halftime. Yep. And like that to me is, again, a dereliction of duty as an offensive play caller, because you see a scheme that works for your team. And then at some point you go back and say, we're going to try something else. We're going to try. And Kentucky, let's be honest, not a great run defense. They're not. They've given up a ton of yardage, and Texas ended up with fewer rush attempts and obviously fewer rushing yards than like Eastern Michigan, right? Like that is inexcusable. If you've got, and again, there's conversation about, it was Trey Wisner fully healthy? Did they want to protect him? You've got to figure, like, you got to get Niblett back there. You've got to get James Simon ready to go. And there's a deeper conversation to have about Chad Scott and his abilities to get that running back room ready to go. Because again, you don't expect for CJ Baxter to be hurt, but at this point, maybe you should expect for CJ Baxter to be hurt. But like Chad, if we're looking at Chad Scott's group's production this year, it has been a step down from last year. And again, not everybody can be Tashard Choice, but ultimately, like there is for me a deep level of frustration with the fact that Sark had a winning game plan last week. And frankly, I don't think that James Simon probably would have been fine. Like Christian Clark probably would have been fine getting a lion's share of carries, because the Kentucky defense is that soft against the run. So I just don't know what was going on mentally. Hopefully they can figure something out for this weekend. But like ultimately, like that to me is the big frustration, is that like, if you can't self-scout and see that your offensive line is not up to snuff, and you can't from week to week call a consistent game plan after finding something, that is the emperor has no clothes at that point. Like that's to me, like there's nobody in the offices that can tell him like, hey, this is what needs to happen, that he respects, or like he's doing too much. And maybe it's a little bit of both, but like that to me is what it happens. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Everything rises and falls on the head coach. And if you think about the coaches that have won national championships and have been successful, right? They've been the types that, yes, they are. Like, I'm not saying Kirby Smart is not an elite defensive coach, but he's not calling the defense, right? Nick Saban, elite defensive coach, wasn't calling the defense. Right? Ryan Day, great quarterback coach, great offensive mind, not calling the offense. Right? Jim Harbaugh, great defensive mind, not calling the defense. See, Dabo Swinney hasn't called a play in probably a quarter century, right? Like these types of CEO type coaches, the ones that are like, hey, I know this is my thing. And I bet I would be shocked if Kirby Smart isn't in the game planning session with the defensive coordinator and talking philosophy, but he's not the one that's building. He's not the one that's installing. And that to me is the differentiator. Like Sark can still be the offensive identity and the offensive mind behind Texas without being the one that has to be in the play calling. That's to be the one that's building the play sheet and the script. Like those are the things that like I would love to see a shift happen.
I don't think he has a good game feel. And what I mean by that is when the script doesn't work, he doesn't come off of it. He just stays to the script and just dies with the script. I mean, the perfect example of that is the one drive you were moving the ball in Kentucky was 3rd and 3. Great option to be in. And you run a double reverse pass. That doesn't need to be run there. That's a play you run on the other side of the field on 1st and 10, because guess what? Then you have 2 plays to make up for that. On 3rd down, I don't want to do or die play, and then Jack Andrews is double covered, and you have literally no other options. That was it. Once he's double covered, the play's over. So, yeah, that's my biggest thing. That was the same thing I noticed, again, in the Washington game a couple years ago. We were running the ball easily on Washington. Easily. I think we ended up averaging 6 yards per carry in the game, and we just went away from them. Yes, I know there were fumbles, but we were still in the game. So guess what? Give them more chances because we were eating, and we saw what Michigan did the next week. They just ran the ball down Washington's throats. I think they ended up with over 200 yards rushing. And that's my thing. I think he's caught up in the whole picture of the game, as he should be, because he's a head coach. Yes, exactly. But he doesn't see the forest from the tree sometimes as an offensive play caller, and that's my biggest thing. I just need someone on game day to call plays. That's all I'm asking. He can literally design what you want for the game plan, and then that guy just calls plays, because then he can be like, oh, this isn't working. I'm going to have to change it up. I'm fine with that, but he cannot be the primary play caller. It does not work in modern college football.
There's too much for a head coach to handle and manage in that situation. So you cannot be in the flow of the game and in the flow of it when you're also having to manage timeouts and decisions on both sides of the ball. Like those are the things that, again, like it hampers you as a play call. The Ron Swanson quote, like, don't half-ass 2 things, whole-ass 1 thing. Like, you become a half-asser at both being an offensive coordinator and a head coach because you are dividing your attention. You cannot, multitasking is a myth. It's not a real thing. You're simply just dividing your attention in micro moments and becoming worse at both because you're having to divide your attention. That's not how the human brain works. The human brain works best when it's monofocused, when it's dialed in on something and able to get into a flow state. And that ultimately is what an offensive play caller can do for both, right? Because you've got a guy who his job is simply just, I'm going to call plays on Saturday. My job is to see what's happening in the game, to talk to the coaches on the sidelines, to make sure that I know where our guys are at, what they're doing, and how things should progress. And then Sark can do all the other stuff. And like you said, during the week, he can help build the scripts. He can help design the plays. He can help with the install. But like on game day, there is way too much for him to be managing to be a good manager of the flow of the game offensively.
100%. And another stat, 7 of the last 9 Power 4 opponents, guys, we've scored 17 or less points in regulation. That's not going to get it done. It's just not. Like Arizona State, people don't remember. We did not play. We got 7 points from a punt return. And they came back in that game because of the ineptitude of us to be able to keep the ball and move the ball. Like we jumped up 14-0 and there was nothing else after that. And that happens a lot with Sark too. Like once he comes off script, it has been pretty bad actually throughout his tenure. We don't really move the ball after that. We might get lucky once in a while and break a run or break a pass, but that's about it. This year it's been both. We don't have the script working. Then after that, there's nothing. So that's why you see what you get. And I completely agree. There's going to be guys available. You know, people say, well, what offensive coordinator do you want over Steve Sarkisian? If I got set 100% of Steve Sarkisian as an offensive play caller, I wouldn't choose many play callers. We're not getting that. We're probably getting 75% of Steve Sarkisian. And guess what? There's a lot of play callers I would choose over 75% of Steve Sarkisian. There's a guy at Texas State right now. Guess what? I saw Ohio State take Chip Kelly away from UCLA. You don't think we could money whip GJ Kinney at Texas State and come over here and call plays at Texas? I definitely think that's a possibility. We have the money to do so. We have the will to do so. There are head coaches at smaller programs you could money whip to get on that Texas sideline and be the offensive coordinator. And heck, there's one in the NFL right now. I know he doesn't look great right now, but I think Mike McDaniel runs a pretty similar system, and he's going to be available. And if Texas is willing, I bet he would come to Texas. It'd be a lot less pressure. I think it'd get him back on his feet, and he runs a very, very, very similar system.
Yeah, and I think, I made the joke that like Billy Napier called an offense that beat the fire out of Texas a couple weeks ago, but Billy Napier is an offensive coordinator and he is a quarterback coach, right? And Florida fans were like, no, we don't want Billy calling plays anymore because he was a head coach offensive coordinator, right? Like Billy Napier, when he's been able to focus on just being the offensive coordinator or just being the quarterback coach, he's been good. Right. Like there are guys out there that, again, and like you said, it may not even come down to money whipping a guy that's at a lower school. There are going to be options. There are guys probably on the support staff right now that are former head coaches that could step in and be the guy for Steve Sarkisian. It's just not happening. It's not happening. And I'm not sure what it's going to take Steve Sarkisian coming off of his own pride and his own, because I'm not saying that it's not a hard decision. It's hard giving up things that you love. It's hard giving up good things to do something great, right? But good is the enemy of great. He is a good head coach and play caller. Texas needs great at both. And that is him being in both roles is keeping him from being great and is keeping Texas from being great. It's putting a cap on what the offense is able to do, what the quarterbacks are able to do, what the team itself is able to do. Like it's just a cap on the program overall.
No, and I think the perfect example is Ohio State. It really is. Like they were really good for a long time with Ryan Day calling plays. They've become basically untouchable ever since he gave up the play calling duties. Like they're just destroying teams now. And that's because Ryan Day, and guess what? He can go look at the defense. He can go look at the special teams. He can go recruit. He can talk to boosters. He can go and, give his 2 cents on the offensive coordinator role. But he doesn't have to be the main guy drawing everything up and taking away from those other things. And that's what can happen. I really believe if he gives this up and we find a good offense coordinator, this team can hit a new height. I really believe that, but I don't know if he's going to be willing to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I got the list of the last the list of all the college football national championships. Jimbo Fisher was the last one to be a play caller to win a national championship. Right after that, it's all Urban Meyer, Nick Saban, Dabo, and Orgeron. Like all of these guys are CEO type head coaches. None of them are calling plays, and it's just it seems so simple for them to not be able to get it.
100%. Again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below and let us know what you think. Some names that you want to see possibly as the Texas offense coordinator. Let us know in the comment section. I'm very interested. Mike McDaniel's the one that comes to mind because I just think it'd be pretty seamless. Like he runs basically the same exact system as we do, and he's going to get fired. It's just a matter of time, so it's going to be interesting. And guys, can you please hit that like button? Please subscribe down below. Again, we're here every Monday and Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We really appreciate you guys being here. And guys, if you want to make some money this football season, check out the Voice of College Football Bets.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select a betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.
Again, guys, please hit that like button and subscribe. Now, let's talk about this. How can Texas fix the offense? Steve Sarkisian is not going to give up play calling duties, especially midseason. I never expected that, even if he wanted to give them up, especially because who you're going to give them to? The only guy I can even think of is Neil Brown, and they don't have a similar mindset of offense at all. So that wasn't going to happen. So how do you think we can fix this offense, Gerald?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to really like the game plan they had against Oklahoma. I keep harping on this, but like, that your offensive line is suspect. You know that Arch Manning needs to get into rhythm. You know that you have athletes that frankly are going to win you most of the games, right? So Steve Sarkisian's plan against Oklahoma of getting players in space, getting the ball out of Arch Manning's hands quickly, getting him into a rhythm early, and letting him be a bit of a runner in that game really did show that the offense can move it. And ultimately, you don't have to be an offense that's going to score 35 or 45 points a game because the defense is so good, right? And so, like, if you can find a way, and it sucks to have a guy like Arch Manning have to be in a game manager role because he has such a high ceiling, but he's not getting to that ceiling right now. He's anywhere close to that ceiling right now. So ultimately, like, as an offensive coach, like, you've got to say, okay, here's where we're at. Our offensive line is suspect. We have our first two running backs are banged up at best, injured at worst, right? So, like, how do we get guys like Ryan Niblett out into space? How do we get guys like DeAndre Moore out into space? How do we get guys like Ryan Wingo into space where they can be a supplement to the running game, right? And then when you get those things, because we saw it against Oklahoma, and I keep coming back to it, Texas ran Oklahoma ragged early in the game and then was able to lean on them late with an offensive line that frankly is suspect, right? Oklahoma's defensive line is going to have more NFL guys on it than Texas's offensive line does. But if you watch the third and especially the fourth quarter of that game, it didn't look like it. The Texas offensive line was dominating a group of guys that's going to be playing in the league here next year because Sark ran them sideline to sideline early, got them into space, used the pass to really supplement and hide some of the run, got it out of Arch Manning's hands quick. So guys like David Stone and R. Mason Thomas can't key off on Arch Manning. And then when the game got down to the point where we need to take the air out of the ball, they were able to do that because those guys on the defensive side were tired. And so that's when having big humans, because you can just lean on them. I'm 6'7", you're 6'2". I'm going to just lean on you and get 4 yards of carry like that. It seems simple to me. So maybe it's too simple. I don't know.
No, I completely agree. I think Steve Sarkisian, like, he doesn't want to give up the play calling duties, but he's also, hamstrung to this idea of what this offense should be and what reality it actually is. I think you saw what the offense is versus Oklahoma. I think the game plan versus Kentucky is what he wants it to be, and it's just not going to work. And I think he may have come to the realization today at the press conference. I'm hoping he did, but we've been saying for a while, I've been saying this especially, stop running plays from under center. It does not work. It has not worked the whole year, especially play action from under center. Scrap it. It's pistol and shotgun, especially shotgun. Arch does so much better from out of the shotgun than the other two, but he does okay out of pistol. I'd be fine if you keep that. If you want to take a couple deep shots, fine. But if you're going to do it, max protect and take maybe one a quarter, maybe. And then another thing, our tight ends struggle in blocking. So can we please stop running 12 personnel? It makes no sense. First off, these guys are not super athletic guys. So even when you get them the ball, they're not going to break these tackles. So don't really need them out there in 12 personnel anyways. And then when they block, they're not very good at it. So stop trying to run out of 12 personnel. I think it's smart to spread it out, run that way. Also, I thought about this, they wanted to go power and duo scheme this year running wise. But all these guys were brought up in the outside zone, inside zone of Sark the past couple of years. So just stick with that. Like, it worked versus Oklahoma, and we saw none of it versus Kentucky. I think we ran it once or twice, and it was all in the second half. So run it. And then if it doesn't work, tell you what, we run 10 outside zone carries and it doesn't work, fine, adjust at that point. But at least try it, because the one time I saw you do it a lot, it worked, and we won the football game. So I don't understand why you would stop doing it. I do like the wide receiver screens early to stretch the defense out if you can't run the ball. I don't mind those early. Now, if they do work, keep running. If they don't, again, abandon. That's the thing that I think what Sark does too often is when something does work, he gets rid of it. When something does work or doesn't work, he keeps doing it. And I don't understand that. It should be the complete opposite. When something's working, literally just spam it. Just in Madden, run hurry up every time it works and just get on the ball and run it again, run it again, run it again. So I think those are some things that you can do. And then run Arch more. We had one, I think, quarterback design run in the game versus Kentucky, maybe two, and it was a terrible play call. It was a zero blitz, and we ran a QB power right at it. So it was an atrocious play call. But can we do, 6 to 8 just pure design runs of Arch Manning? Because, again, it gets him into rhythm. I mean, we have the tape. Whenever he does that and gets hit hard, he's, for whatever reason, starts to complete more passes. When we don't do that early on, like the Kentucky game, he's terrible for a while. So I would like us to do that as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, the Arch didn't have a called run until 10-17 in the second quarter. which was it was like a QB draw, which was weird. Like Arch is not a draw kind of quarterback. That's a QB power kind of quarterback. I'm counting it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So six called runs in the game for Arch Manning, which again, not like that pales in comparison to I think what needs to happen, and doing it later in the game. Like that to me, it's not because Arch, again, you can tell in his body language how he feels after he runs. You can tell by his body language how he feels when he gets to be an athlete out there and flex a little bit on him. Like that to me, like it makes too much sense for them not to do it. Especially when you've got questions at the offensive line and questions at running back. Like running your quarterback out of 11 personnel gives you an extra blocker, right? Because you've got a running back in there that can block. Defense is just a game of numbers. It's a running quarterback power. Why it's successful is because you fix the numbers in your favor. Like that is just, again, it seems too simple to me that like he's missing it. I don't know what it is, but you and I could see it. Maybe there's something we're missing. I don't know.
Yeah, I think also we haven't seen the Ryan Wingo reverse in a while. I think run that once or twice a game. It doesn't always have to be a Ryan Wingo, but do it with a couple of your playmakers. It works. Like we're not breaking it off for 20, 30 yards, but I think on average we're getting about 5 to 8 yards every time. And I'll take that over just the traditional run game at this point. So yeah, I mean, there's simple things that we need to stick to and do that I have seen work, but the problem is we get away from them. I'm fine with literally if we ran 20 to 25 of the same type of plays over and over and over again, if they work, because we don't need that many points. Like if you guaranteed me, and I'm interested to see your number on this, Gerald, but if you could guarantee me 24 points for every game the rest of the way, I am signing up for that because I think it's going to be really hard for everyone else on our schedule to score. 25 isn't even a real number. I guess it'd be 26 points versus this defense. Is that possible? I think they can do it, but it's going to be really hard because I think Texas has a top 5 defense in the country.
Yeah, I think I was thinking 24, 27 maybe at the most, but like there are 2 teams I think on the schedule that have the horses to do that, and that's Georgia and A&M, and we knew that going into the year, right? If you can, again, I think about last week's game plan against Oklahoma, like 23 points was enough to win the game because they were opportunistic and they took advantage of the deficiencies. But when you look at like how Sark called the offense, I said it in the post game, Arch had 2 deep shots against Oklahoma, went 2 for 2. Against Kentucky, he had 6. Like, I don't know. He was 1 of 8 on the mid range. So like from like 7 to 14 yards, he was 3 of 7 a week ago, 1 of 8 this year. So there's some parity there, but like having to have him force the ball downfield continually doesn't get him into a rhythm. It doesn't get him into a point where he's feeling confident and comfortable. And I think 24 feels like a decent number. They may have to go up to 27 against Georgia or A&M because Georgia and A&M both have really good offenses. But ultimately, like Georgia's defense has shown that they'll give up some plays. A&M's defense has given up some plays. So like there is that ability to it. But I think you're absolutely right. If you can get, I mean, really, it's a race to 20 in most games against Texas. Like that's really what it is.
Yeah, I think there's only been 1 game this year where we've given up more than 14 points. So, I mean, yeah, I agree. I think 20 for most teams, 24, 27 for Georgia and A&M. And also score off of turnovers. The last 4 turnovers, we have scored 0 points. That you can't win football games. Yeah, that too. And listen, turnover luck's a real thing. Like that is not something that you can replicate week over week. So I understand that. But guess what? When you get the ball, you can score off of it once in a while. I'm not saying you got to score touchdowns every time, but hell, I would take field goals at this point. Like 12 extra points in both these games, like split up. We're beating Oklahoma by 4 touchdowns basically at that point, and we're not going in overtime with Kentucky. So just be able to move the ball and kick field goals, please.
Yeah. And you've proven that you got a kicker that you really don't have to move it that much. Like you got to get him to the 40, maybe the 35 at most. Like, yeah, it's not really that. He's got a good boot on him. Like you don't have to do a whole lot.
No, you don't. This isn't Bert Auburn. You can get it to the 35 to 40, and you're going to hit 85% of the time with that. So I completely agree with what you just said there. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below, guys. That is how we think the Texas offense can be fixed. You let us know in the comments section what you guys think. Now let's move on to this game. I was kind of surprised at this line when it came out. Mississippi State originally was getting 6.5 points. It's gone up now. It's at 7. I think Mississippi State's a much better football team than Kentucky. Mississippi State could easily have beat Florida and Tennessee. Like, this team could easily have 6 wins right now. They sit here at 4-3, 0-3 in the SEC, but this is not last year's Mississippi State team. They're much better. Blake Shapen is healthy. He will throw you the football, but he's very accurate as well. They have a couple good weapons with Anthony Evans and Brennan Thompson, both averaging over 10 yards per catch. Brennan Thompson's averaging 18.4 yards per catch. I mean, this is what we envisioned for him when he came to Texas, that deep speed guy. And let me tell you, Jeff Lebby watched Kentucky run mesh. And if you don't think he's going to run mesh with up-tempo offense, you're out of your mind. He's going to do it over and over again until we stop it. And he's going to do it with better athletes and a better quarterback than Kentucky had. So Texas, you better be ready for that, because I saw Pete Kwiatkowski, that's actually kind of his weakness. You know, we saw that versus Houston in 2023. They just did it over and over and over again. We saw it with Kentucky. It's kind of these teams that don't think they can exploit anything else. They just go back to the basics. Mississippi State's going to do that. So I'm kind of scared for that. But overall, this is a solid football team.
Yeah, they're a solid football team. And you know, the thing that I think the thing that makes them better than they were last year, honestly, like the offensive line. Their offensive line is pretty solid this year, averaging more than 3.5 line yards per rush. And you've got 2 good running backs. So you've also got, they're not just going to be your typical like air it out that you expect, or kind of a higher pass. Like, they do have a higher pass volume, but like they've got options to be able to run it. This isn't like your typical air raid. This is more, again, this is a bad word, but like it's more from the Bryles type of offensive scheme. You know, Jeff Lebby is his son-in-law, right? So like that's part of the thing. But like they're not exceptionally good on like, they're not great on either side of the ball. They're just good on both sides of the ball. They're, you know, according to advanced stats, has them somewhere in like the 40-ish range on both sides of the ball, right? Like 38, I think, defensively, 42 offensively on FEI. Again, you can look at whatever one you want, but like it really is going to be like testing everything that Pete Kwiatkowski defensively is known for, right? Because can you put a lid on this defense? Because that's what they're going to want to take, some deep shots with Brennan Thompson. They're going to want to take some deep shots with their wide receivers. But they're also, if you put a lid on it, they're going to be able to run the ball, because Fluff Bothwell is a good running back, and they've got a good offensive line. And frankly, like, Texas has shown that they can get pushed around a little bit. Florida did it 3 weeks ago, right? They didn't against Oklahoma, but like that to me, and they didn't against Kentucky. So like, again, they're a good defensive front. I'm really impressed with what Texas defensive tackles have done, but like, this is a team that can attack you multiple ways. And Jeff Lebby, I don't like him as a person, but he's a really good offensive coach.
Yeah, and Kamario Taylor, their backup quarterback, will come in and run the ball as well. So we have to look out for that, because we saw what Dylan Gabriel did to Texas in the Jeff Lebby system of, hey, everyone's out there running man, and he just took off, ran for over 100 yards in that game, won them the football game with his legs. If Kamario Taylor's in the game, that needs to be, hey, if he wants to throw the football, let him throw the football. You cannot let this guy run the football on you. When Blake Shapen does throw a pass that should be intercepted. Do not help this football team. They are, again, even if we play a letter grade up from Kentucky, we played an F game versus Kentucky, if we play a D game, Mississippi State's beating us. We have to come out and play at least a B football game, and we haven't had many of those overall, so we have to do that in this football game. Jaray Bledsoe, remember him playing pretty good for Mississippi State, 3.5 tackles for them. Leads the football team, probably going to end up with 7 or 8 tackles for loss. That's really good for a defensive tackle. He's a good football player, finally living up to expectations. Like you said, Fluff Bothwell, but then Devon Booth is also a good running back for them as well. So they have offensive weapons on this football team. It's going to be interesting what the game plan for Lebby is here. I don't know if he's going to try to run it versus us. I don't know if he's going to run mesh a lot. I don't know if he's going to attack deep. I think it's going to be a combination of all three, kind of test where we're weak at, and then he's just going to attack it over and over and over again until we can stop it.
Yeah, the opening script is going to be very, very telling for this game, because I think Lebby again. He's one of the better offensive coaches in the country. He's really got a smart way of running things. He's really got a great offensive head. So I think we're going to see early what he's going to do. He's going to have a pretty solid idea of what he wants to do. And we've seen what Jeff Lebby's offenses can do, right? They're very quick, get the ball out of the quarterback's hands really fast. You know, get your playmakers into space so let them be playmakers. That's again been the MO for that style of offense for 20 years now. So like that to me, it can exploit some of what Texas can do, because Texas, especially in man coverage, has been a step slow. Texas has had some discipline issues with their eyes. And so like they're susceptible to some of those things. So Jeff Lebby's a good enough offensive coach to really punish you for those things. Now, again, if Texas plays like you said, a B game, even a B minus game, right? I think Texas wins this game pretty well because then it becomes, athlete to athlete. If Steve Sarkisian can call a solid offensive plan, because defensively they don't stuff a lot of runs. They're only stuffing like 14% of runs, and they're giving up 3.5 line yards per rush, right, on both sides. So like if Texas can get going and really lean into what they're good at, I think this can be a game where Texas can control the pace, control the clock. And it's not necessarily Sark's MO, but like this is a game where if you can leave, Blake Shapen on the sideline for a big chunk of it and lean into, keeping the ball, holding the ball. They didn't do a great job of it against Kentucky, and we saw what happened there. So like that to me is the way to win this game.
Yeah, I think the next couple of weeks are honestly going to be for Vanderbilt, Mississippi State. It's going to be third down. Whoever wins third down is going to win those football games. Just the case, because Mississippi State's going to they're going to run that turbo offense and keep you on the field and gas you basically on your defense. So if they're converting third downs and they're going on these 10, 12 play long drives and gassing you, you're going to get tired. They're going to wear down your defense. And that's going to be worse if we're not converting third downs and putting our defense back on the field. So we have to convert third downs and we have to stop third downs. That's the number one key for me. If we win the third down battle, we'll win this football game.
Absolutely. I think it's happened maybe twice this year, but we'll see how it goes on Saturday. Because I think Texas can do it. We have the athletes. Like if you go athlete to athlete, they're better than Mississippi State. But we've seen them get in their way, shoot themselves in the foot. And again, a rite of passage in the SEC is going to Lexington and getting dragged into the mud, into a rock fight against Kentucky, against a market. That's what Mark Stoops teams want to do. Can you avoid that again against Mississippi State? Can you keep your offense on the field? Can you keep your defense from getting gassed? Because they're going to be doing a lot of running in this game. It just is what it is. So like, can you extend drives? I need to pull up the numbers, but I'm pretty sure get it against Kentucky. Texas had 4 drives that were shorter than a minute or shorter. Had 0 drives that were longer than 5 minutes. They were at average number of plays per drive was 4 for Texas in that game. Like that's going to get you beat in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah,
it's going to get you beat. So like
we'll get blown out if that happens this week. That will be like a 35-10 football game.
Yeah, 100%, without a doubt.
Because it'll be close for a half and they'll just explode offensively because our defense will be like, well, we're at 60 plays and they're running at a rapid pace. Yeah, it's over.
Yeah, and no fault to them. Like that's not on them at all.
No. And that's the thing, too. I had someone in the comment section blame the defense. I'm like, what am I blaming them for? They held the Kentucky to 4.6 yards per play, and Texas was at 3.3 yards per play offensively. No, I'm going to blame the offense because that's where the blame deserves to be at.
They were on the field for 20 extra plays effectively and gave up 13 points. The defense did everything they were supposed to do in that game.
Yeah, I completely agree. And again, let's go with the prediction here. I think the line is literally perfect. The number I had in this game was 24-17. That's what I think is going to be the final score, something like that. I'll go 23-17 Texas, and I think Mississippi State covers. That's where I'm at.
I've got it 28-21. I think I've got Texas 28. So same difference, right? 7 points. I think Texas, what Texas can do if Sark calls a good game plan, they can exploit some of the issues on this Mississippi State defense and put up some touchdowns. And again, defensively, Texas offense versus Mississippi State's defense, Texas has the athleticism advantage. So they should be able to hit some chunk plays if they can get the offense into rhythm and if they can get those things going. So yeah, I've got Texas 28-21 in this one.
Yeah, I think the weakest part of Mississippi State's defense is the cornerbacks. I think they have pretty good safeties. They have pretty good linebackers. They have a pretty good defensive line, but I think you can exploit the cornerbacks. Now, again, it kind of sucks because can we hold up versus their defensive line to exploit the cornerbacks? That's a different question. I don't know that. I'd be guessing if I told you because I've seen us do it versus Oklahoma. I haven't seen us do it versus other teams. Hell, the two of the three best defensive lines we played in Ohio State and Oklahoma, we held up fine. Then we play Kentucky and don't hold up, and we play Florida and don't hold up, and we play UTEP and we don't hold up. So I don't know what to expect from our offense.
Your guess is as good as mine, man. I have no clue.
Again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Let us know in the comments section what your prediction for this game is. I'm actually excited. Listen, I don't like hearing the cowbells, but it is cool to hear them for a little bit. I'm going to hate them after a quarter, but I think it's going to be a fun trip for Texas fans, especially to Starkville. It's a very unique, very different environment. So interested to see what that turns out like. Again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. This is the 74th edition of Texas Longhorns Live, and we're going to break down 3 games non-Texas related like we always do. Gerald, you're catching up. I'm 11-4. You're 7-8. So you're slowly but surely catching up here.
Oh, yeah.
Let's start out with Ole Miss versus Oklahoma. Ole Miss is getting 4.5 points here on the road versus Oklahoma. I'll let you kick this one off.
Yeah, I think the Oklahoma that showed up against Texas was a bit of an aberration. And as much as it hurts me to pick Oklahoma in this game, I think they're a good football team, period. Like Texas exploited them in the right ways and got a good game plan. Red River is kind of an anomaly. So I think Ole Miss is a bit of a paper tiger in a lot of ways. So I think about Oklahoma in this one.
I completely agree. I think I picked Oklahoma at the beginning of the year, go 9-3, make the playoffs. I still think there's a really good possibility of that. There's no one on that schedule other than Alabama that I think they should lose to. There just isn't. LSU doesn't scare me. There's Ole Miss, and I forget who else is on that schedule, but I think there's a real possibility, and I hate saying this, like if Oklahoma runs the rest of the way, they may be in the SEC championship game. The defense is that good. I think John Mateer is enough of a playmaker to exploit some things on other defenses. And I just don't think Ole Miss defensively is a very good football team. And then Trinidad Chambliss, he's good, but he's not good enough to carry a defense like that.
No, not at all.
So I'm going to take Oklahoma as well. Next up, this kind of surprised me a little bit. Missouri at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is favored by 2.5 points. So I guess on a neutral field, it's a complete pick-me game. This game might be the hardest for me to pick out of every game we picked so far. I'm going to go Vanderbilt here, but I don't love it. I think this is a true coin flip game. I think Missouri's a good football team. They're really well coached. They're pretty good on both sides of the ball. They run the ball really well, obviously, with Ahmad Hardy and Bo Pribula. But I'm going to take Vandy here. I think I can't believe I'm saying this. I watched some clips from their offensive line. They're just a really good physical football team on both lines of scrimmage. And that's the difference between this year's Vandy team and last year. You could push them around a little bit last year. You're not doing that this year. Diego Pavia is obviously still a good quarterback. I think Vanderbilt's going to win this football game.
Yeah, I want to pick. My head is telling me to pick Vanderbilt. I think it's probably the smart pick there. But one, for the sake of trying to catch up to you, but two, Missouri has been on the cusp of winning some of these big ones over the last couple of weeks. They had a shot against Alabama. They've been on the cusp, and I think Eli Drinkwitz is kind of corny, but I also think he's a really good football coach. He's going to get this team up for this game, and Vandy is not catching anybody off guard anymore. Vandy is just a good football team. And so I think they'll be up for this game. And so, Missouri's they've got the horses. They've got a good passing attack. They've got a really good running back. Defense may be a little suspect in some spots. Vanderbilt's going to want to boa constrictor this game and keep that offense off the field. But I think they've just got the athletes to be able to put up some points when needed. So I think I'm going to go Missouri in this one.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is a complete coin flip. Oklahoma versus Missouri, that's another game that could determine who goes to the SEC championship game. So kind of surprising. Yeah. We'll see if Eli Drinkwitz maybe is looking over to Gainesville a little bit because he is a candidate over there. So we'll see about that. Next up, Texas A&M at LSU. Texas A&M favored by 2.5 points. Gerald, I'll let you go first on this one.
I think LSU is just trash this year. I don't think they're a good team. I do not think they're a good team this year. I think Brian Kelly is not long for this world at LSU. And again, I hate going on here and picking both A&M and Oklahoma to win, but I think A&M is a legitimately good football team. They're a good football team. They've got they've got an offense that can move the ball. And LSU, they're leaky on both sides of the ball. They're leaky on offense. They're leaky on defense. They're just not a good football team. Brian Kelly does not have this team in a good position. And so I think I have to go with the team. You are who you are at this point in the year, and LSU is not a good team, and A&M is.
The thing is, these teams always play weird football games. This is kind of a rivalry ever since A&M jumped over to the SEC. And I just have a weird feeling. So I'm going to take LSU. I don't think they're a good football team either, but I also don't think A&M just going to run the table and go undefeated either. So I'm going to give them a loss here, but it would not surprise me if Texas A&M won this football game. I agree. When the year's over, Texas A&M will have a better record and be a better football team than LSU. But I think Saturday, LSU is going to win the game. If not, I agree. I think Brian Kelly could be fired in the next week or two after that if they lose this football game, because it's unacceptable. When you're there, guys, I've seen Les Miles win a national championship and make another one. I saw Nick Saban win a national championship. I saw Ed Orgeron win a national championship. Brian Kelly's yet to make the college football playoff. If he does not do that this year, which he will not, I don't think, he needs to be fired.
Les Miles too, right? Les Miles won it
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
Like the last 4 coaches.
Yeah, he made one and won one. So
Yeah,
he'd make
it is.
2.
Yeah, it's not. The standard is the standard at LSU, and Brian Kelly is not close to it. It's not great. Like I will be cheering against my own best interests on Saturday. Like I'll be cheering against Oklahoma. I'll be cheering against A&M. Like I would much rather them lose than frankly win this pick competition with you, Matthew. We don't have a bet on it. If we had a bet on it, I'd feel a little different. But like I just don't like my heart and my head say 2 different things for both those games. My heart says LSU by 1 million. It says OU's going to lose by 1 million, but my head tells me different.
No, I mean, that's why you always go with your head in these decisions. But
yeah,
again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. We really appreciate it. We are here every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and Brandon and Josh are here every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So please check them out tomorrow. We're here every game, no matter what, win, lose. There's no draws like the NFL, but if there were, we'd be here for those as well. So check us out after the game. The game, I believe, is at 3:15 Central Time, so 4:15 Eastern, something like that. We'll be here at 7:30 Eastern Time for the post-game show, I believe, 7:30, 8 o'clock. Another late one. Not as late as Kentucky one, and hopefully the result is the same, but the product itself is better. Also, give each of us a follow right there on our X accounts, Gerald's X, Blue Sky, Instagram, whatever you want right there, as well as his Longhorn podcast. Please check him out. On Spotify, iHeart, Amazon, wherever you find your podcast. That's my X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it right there. Please check me out. And then, again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below. And as always, hook 'em.
Hook 'em.